Space Arena.
Ground Arena.
SAGA Podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Space Arena, Ground Arena Podcast, where we cover Star Wars from the ground up. I'm Kennedy Hawk, one of your hosts, and we've got the whole crew here with us today. Well, Mr. Ben, how's it going?
Yo, good to see everybody. Excited to get into it.
Yeah, it should be a fun episode. We've also got our fearless leader, Banana. How's it going?
Fearless is a strong word, but I'm good.
Our fearful leader. Well, today we're going to continue talking about Star Wars Unlimited, but maybe in an unusual way compared to what we've done in the past. We're going to probably focus a little bit less on specifics or mechanics of the game and talk more about community building around the game. We did one of these episodes before the game launched on how to foster a good community, how to help a community grow. And I think it's time to go through one again, right? Set 5 is coming out soon. Communities have grown, communities have waned, and now it's time to think about what are some things we can do as Star Wars Unlimited players to make people want to play this game with us. Please play this game with me. So, we have 2 topics today. We're going to talk about growing a local community, things to do, things not to do, and things like that, and our opinions on that. We might not all have the same opinion. We might all have the same opinion. Hopefully we do, but potentially not. And then we'll talk about what happens if you don't have a local community. Can you find a webcam community or a Discord community or a Facebook testing group or something like that? So those are going to be our 2 topics for today, and we'll take it away with the first one. So this topic is all about how to grow a local community for your game of Star Wars Unlimited. So I'm going to tell everyone what the core strategies I have when trying to build different game communities. And I've done this for a bunch of different games in the past. I did it for the LCG when I was in Madison. I did it a little bit for Destiny here. I've done it for other TCGs, for Marvel Champions in different areas and things like that. And for me, it's really about 3 things that I want to have happen. I want to encourage accessibility in the game. I want to ensure that the game is welcoming to new players and returning players, regardless of their card game experience. I don't want to always play the new dumbed-down scenario in Marvel Champions or in whatever, but I also don't want to always force these try-hard events that make people not want to engage if they haven't played a lot. I want to focus on retention. I want to make events fun, and socially rewarding so that people want to come back, right? You want to make them feel like they want to come back, but not like they have to come back or they're missing out. And I want to see growth. I want to see more people not just coming and playing the game, but also walking by and seeing us playing the game and saying, I should pick that up and try it out. It looks really fun. Because even if they're not playing at your local events, if they're purchasing the product at your local store and maybe playing at the kitchen table at home with their kids or with coworkers at work at lunch, that's still good for your local community, even if they're not invested in weekly play. So those are my cores to building a community. Do you guys have any thoughts on what are some core aspects that you think need to happen for a community to be built around a card game? We'll go to Banana.
Number 1, I think it has to be a good card game, right? So we have that. Number 2 is don't be a dick. If you walk into the store and someone's visiting from out of town and they say, hey, I'm in town for a couple hours, let's get some games in. Completely shunning the person and ignoring them is probably not a great way to make someone feel welcome. Be welcoming, invite them in. And one thing I would say is don't always make your events competitive. Some people just want to have fun. Some people want to play jank. Some people just want to play with their favorite leaders. They don't always want to be on the grind that some people are on. Alternate formats, Twins, Suns Nights, stuff like that. More fun, laid back, casual. It's more about the talk around the table than the cards on it at that point, and that helps build relationships, which builds good communities.
Yeah, I really like all those points. I think that having a casual night is super important to game building. Keeping the casual night casual, that's one thing that I think is really important. I've gone to a lot of casual nights where people still bring their hyper-competitive decks, and they consider it casual because there's not a prize at the end. And to me, that's not very casual. It's okay to bring your hyper-competitive decks if everyone knows that's what's happening, and then maybe talk out your plays more as a team, right? Oh, I'm really stuck. I don't know what to do against your setup. Here's my choices. Can you help me out? Let's play this as a more loosey-goosey kind of event. Those are really fun, but I also like when people just bring their jank decks, right? Because I know when I bring people to a casual event and they walk into a field of Sabines and Cat Banes and whatever is stomping in your meta, usually they don't want to come back. So keep your casual nights casual, fly casual. What tips did you have, Mr. Ben, for cores of building a community?
So I think you guys both kind of touched on this, but I want to put a more like direct label on it. I would say meet people where they are. So yes, keep your casual nights casual, bring your competitive stuff to a tournament, but I would extend it beyond just like format. If somebody's really hyped because they like Luke Skywalker as a character and that's the leader they want to build around because they have like a nostalgic or thematic connection with it, that's not the person to talk about how that character fits in or doesn't fit into the meta. Like, there are people who want that feedback. There's people who don't care about that, and you're just kind of yucking their yum. So there's a lot of different facets of the game where I think you really need to be willing to meet people where they are. So that's kind of piggybacking off the idea of keeping your casual night casual, but like in all ways. Like, if somebody is just there for the theme, let them be there for that, which I guess is just another way of saying casual, you know?
Yeah, I think that's fair, and I think that there's a good way to engage with people after a game. There's totally the way where you can just get tilted and walk away, and sometimes that is how people are, and that's what they have to do. But I've found what's best after a game, if I'm playing someone that's playing a combo deck and they just got stomped, which doesn't happen because I lose, but maybe, hypothetically, they got stomped by me. Instead of just like saying, oh, that combo deck sucks, didn't go off, I say, oh, that looks like it was a really cool combo deck. What was the combo that I didn't get to see? Can you show me with your cards afterwards? We got 10 minutes before the next round. And a lot of times they want to like show off their cool deck gimmick. And same thing with other deck styles. So if you can tell what the person was trying to do, I think being a graceful winner probably is what I'm probably trying to say. And reading the room, figuring out if the person wants to talk to you, how they want to talk to you, is really important, like post-game etiquette. Yeah, I think what you said of meeting people at their level is super important, especially in a game like Star Wars that is so IP rich. There are some people that just want to play a thematic game. Like there's one person I know that like they just want to play a Han and Chewie deck, and it might be a bad deck. They might be playing cards out of aspect, way too high in cost, but they love it because they get to see Han, Chewie, and Falcon on the board constantly, and that's what Star Wars is to them. So I love that, and I want them to have an enjoyable game. So when I go play against them, I don't bring my like power-hungry, super hard control deck. I bring some other mid-rangey deck so that we can both have dudes on the board, because that's the game they want to have. If it's a tournament, maybe that's different. If it's a low-stakes tournament, probably not. I'll probably still run my Funzy deck, but getting to know the people is probably pretty important. So those were like the core principles, I think, of building a good community. But I had an example of like 5 things that I've seen done locally that are really, really good. So I wanted to highlight those. So I'm going to list the 5 things, and then I'll give you examples of each one. And then after each one, I'll ask if your groups do that, or if you've seen something do that, or if you think it's a good idea. So maybe this will feel like a laundry list, but hopefully not. Okay, so in proceeding community building, here's 5 things that the Albuquerque meta does that I think everyone should do. So they run a lot of learn to play events. One of the local stores runs like an every other week learn to play event. A couple people in the community are really good at going to like, there's a Star Wars convention or a sci-fi convention or a game night at the library or a game night at the local university. And they show up with demo decks and teach people the game. That is amazing. So I think that is a really cool thing that they do. One of the stores, the store I play at primarily, has demo decks behind the counter. So if I'm just hanging out at the store and someone walks in and is looking around and then they start making conversation, I'm like, hey, there's a cool Star Wars game behind the counter if you want to play. And we can just like check those out like a library system and teach someone anytime we want. So I think running learn to play events, super important for bringing new people to foster that growth into the community. Have you guys run or been to any learn to play events locally?
Back before the game dropped, we pretty consistently had those the Gen Con decks that weren't full starter decks, and we did several events with those. I feel like the demand for learn to play has somewhat waned, but that would be the time to start trying to rope new people in too. It certainly has not, the numbers of new people showing up at events has certainly gone down. Yeah,
I'd say the same thing. I haven't seen a learn to play event locally since the game actually launched.
Yeah, and to be fair, like our community wasn't doing them until a couple months ago, and then we realized this is probably a healthy thing to do. So major props to people that are doing those. I tend to run learn to plays when I'm hanging out at the store on random nights when there's other card games going on. If people are playing Magic and they have a buy round, and I'm sitting by the front counter, I can be like, "Hey, want to play a new game while you're sitting here bored?" And they usually say, "Yeah, sure." So that's a great way to do like a learn to play, or make like a little placard at your table, right? A little sign that says, "Hey, come learn to play a free game." What we did for the first couple sets when we were doing a lot of learn to plays is I had a lot of bulk, so I would build like bulk decks that were reasonable with just commons and uncommons. And what's nice in this game is you can't make like a tier 1 deck with commons and uncommons, but you can make a functional deck with commons and uncommons. And to me, the bulk is like pennies. So if I was going to do like a learn to play night, I would bring these decks of my bulk, and then after the game I'd be like, "Cool, you get to keep that deck, take it home. Bring it back next week, we play on Mondays." And it's amazing how well that works out. So I highly recommend that if you have luxury of the bulk. Sometimes the store has bulk from draft. That's the best time to get it, is after draft. If people have a bunch of stuff that they're pretty much just going to throw away, be like, put everything in the bulk bin for new people or for demos. And I think that is a cool thing to do. So even though both of you haven't had Learn to Play nights recently, I think it would be a great thing to do every once in a while. It's not an every week thing, because you're not going to get a new player every week. You're going to sit there bored for 3 hours. But if you do it once a month and you advertise it, it can be really good. Another thing that I think can be good in TCGs, and I know some people aren't as into this, is to encourage playtest and I'm not going to say the bad word that people don't like, but proxy like friendly nights, right? Not everybody has every card they want, and they might not have decided what singles they're going to buy or what set they're going to invest in. So shouldn't use proxies in a tournament, quite obviously. But if you have a night that is intended for playtesting, where if someone wants to bring a proxied card because they didn't have 3 Darth Vaders from set 1 and they want to test it out, that's totally cool because it's playtest night. We're just trying to figure out what decks have good matchups. And it really encourages conversational play, where, like I mentioned earlier, my friend Shane and I, when we play online, a lot of times we will get into a situation where like one of us doesn't know what to do, and then we'll basically reveal our hand to the other person and be like, "Look, I'm stuck. Is there anything in my hand that helps me get out of this situation?" And they'll try to tell me, "Well, yeah, if you played that, I don't have the answer. You just don't know that yet. So the next time we run into that situation, hopefully I know what to do." So I think having these like encouraged and structured like social game nights can be really strong. Has anybody ever had like a playtest game night with your local team or your local community or something like that?
Man, I have no problems with people using proxy cards. If we're
Okay,
trying to
good.
figure out a combo, like this great myth that like, oh no, you're going to have proxies in your collection, and then like somebody who doesn't know is going to sell your collection, and unknowing like this is nonsense. This is silly. It's so easy to not use a proxy card at a tournament where they're inappropriate. It's really easy to like, are you competing for stakes? Then you probably shouldn't be using proxies. But as far as playtesting, yeah, bring it on. Like I think having open hands, particularly, this is the kind of thing that does kind of fit at a casual night, but it also fits at a competitive night, because whether you're just trying to, I'm new to the game, I don't really know how it works, or you're trying to hone that last percentage point to get just that much better on your tournament deck, talking through plays with your opponent is a great way to do that. And I certainly encourage play testing with and against the optimal cards. If you're playing with the best cards in your deck, that helps me play test as well. So yeah, I am pro proxy all the way in the situations where they're appropriate.
Yeah, I agree. I don't really have anything else to add to this. You guys both hit all the points I would make, so I just agree.
Okay, the next one I'm going to let you two go first, because otherwise I'm just going to say things and you're going to agree, and that's boring, right? Social, that's what we're trying to do. So how do you coordinate with a local game store? A lot of times you have to get the local game store on your side to run these tournaments. So do either of you do coordination with the local game store, or does the store handle that? How does it work for you, Banana?
So for me, I've tried coordinating with stores, and usually it's like joining their Discord and hitting them up and being like, "Yo, we're trying to get a group of Star Wars going. What nights would be good?" And then usually they're like, "Yeah, this night, we only have this going on." And then try to plan a group or plan your learn to play nights on that night and try to get people to come back. For me, I don't get out as much as I would like with the kids and everything. I'm 7 days a week. We have something going on, it seems. So I'd really like to get out more, but I am currently talking to a store about like Sunday afternoons, trying to get a group going. And there's a guy I found out that lives like 2 minutes down the street that is getting into it. So I'm trying to rope them in. So yeah.
What about you, Mr. Ben?
I think a really useful way to think about this is how much extra work do you want at your job? And since nobody answers that question with anything other than 0, that's kind of how you should approach the people at the store. If you want to use their space to like build a community, yes, there is the promise of a financial incentive for a store owner being able to sell packs or whatever, but giving them the homework project of here, figure this out for me is just not going to work. Most store owners have plenty to do already. So I would think of it as be present, like be around, be helpful, and be pleasant while you're doing it. So have a good attitude, be kind, like, hey, I'm invested in trying to get this community going. What can we do? How can I help? We have to do these things. How many of those things can I do for you? And if that's what you want, if what you want is a play group, and I get how tough this is because I also don't like to go out in public and talk to people necessarily. Like I'm not the biggest fan of face-to-face interaction, so it can be intimidating, especially if you don't already have a relationship with a store. But if you want to build a community, if you want to have people to play with, like somebody has to kind of make that first move. So being willing to go up to the store owner and say, hey, how can I help? That can find you the community and find you people to play with. And in-person play, like I have no hate for webcam play, but in-person play is absolutely better.
It's true. One thing that I think is really important is sometimes stores have a hard time figuring out how to advertise their event. They decide they're going to have Star Wars locals every Wednesday at 5 p.m. and they tell 0 people. That's a problem, right? And like the store should know how to deal with that. It is incentivized for them to get butts in seats, but helping them in any way possible is important. It can be as easy as, hey, they put a Facebook post up, I'm going to like it and I'm going to share it. And they're going to notice that every week that you like and share their event. And all of a sudden other people are going to like and share the event and it will grow. And I've seen people go as far as they'll print little like business cards for like the local community. And they'll give them to the store and say, hey, when you sell a pack of this game, give someone this business card that says, we meet here on Wednesdays. Just put it right next to the booster box so that like when someone buys a booster, they also get to know when we play. And it's amazing how much like that's like above and beyond what a community member should have to do, but it pays like huge dividends.
Mm-hmm.
Our community, the main guy that runs it has like little stickers that say like 505 SWOO or something like that. And someone can get one of those at the counter because they're left at the counter right by the cash register. So you just happen to see it when you buy the pack and you're like, people play this game here. I should go meet other people that play this game. And that can help a ton. So my last 2 points are intertwined, and it's to designate some community ambassadors, friendly people that like to play the game that will teach it to other people and help bring people in and make people feel welcome. And then figure out a local group social media connection site. It can be as simple as a Facebook chat, it can be a Discord server, it can be a text chain between you and the 10 people that play. And make sure when someone new enters to get them involved into that. So how do your local communities communicate and talk about Star Wars Unlimited? We'll go with Mr. Ben first.
So Discord and Facebook, probably mostly Discord. I think that's probably the way it works these days. But I, sort of aside from the question you actually just asked me, I remembered something that I wanted to mention before. And that is just because you're a good player, even if you're like an excellent player, doesn't mean you're a good teacher. Teaching is a skill in and of itself. And within the community, not only identifying the people who have like the right personality type to be the community ambassador, figuring out the people who understand how to teach, like the right words to use for different learning archetypes, so to speak, and being able to like read people and understand when they're responding to something being explained this way or that way. That's a whole skill set unto itself that has almost nothing to do with how good you are or aren't at the game. So just because you're really good at the game doesn't mean you're going to be able to communicate that in a way that connects, especially with a new player, because you're probably mentally making a lot of shortcuts through rules and such. Figuring out who those people are that are great teachers, I think, is just as important as figuring out who the best ambassadors are.
I think one of the things you just said is healthy for Star Wars play and card game play in general is like talking out your turn. It's something that a lot of introverted card game players like myself struggle with, where like I just went to a convention for another card game and there were a lot of games with 4 people at the table, and it would be like someone taking a solo turn and not looking at anyone and then looking at the next player like it was their turn. And you had no idea what they did. But if you sit there and try to be social about it and say, oh, I'm going to play Anakin, I'm going to play him as an attachment, as a pilot onto this unit, then you're communicating to the other player like what you're doing. They're getting to see what you're doing. That helps them learn, especially in teaching games, right? Explaining out your moves, not like giving the strategy, not giving them the win, but just like saying, I'm going to spend 3 resources to play this card. Helps them realize, oh, there's a play pattern. I turn these things sideways, I play a thing. So that could be helpful for learning. It could also be helpful for like not missing your triggers and not messing up your sequencing and helping you in competitive play. So highly recommend like communicating with the other player, which sounds like a duh moment, but also I've seen many people, including myself, not communicate with my opponent or my fellow player, and that leads to problems. What about you, Banana? How does your group communicate and stuff like that?
It's mainly through Discord, some Facebook, but mainly Discord. Like we'll say Saga East is mainly a Facebook Messenger, but like the stores and all that stuff is mainly through Discord. And I think everything we're saying circles back around to my first point, which was don't be a dick. So I'll probably reiterate that a few times.
Well, good. That transitions to the less positive portion of this topic, right? What are some toxic behaviors to avoid? People don't like the word toxic because apparently it's very toxic, but there's definitely some things that are just community killers, right? We don't want to destroy our community before we can even build it.
Yeah.
Like being a dick. That is a community killer. So I have a list of a couple of them. I'm going to ask you for examples you've seen, not just from Star Wars, but like all through your card game history. You both played a ton of card games. I can guarantee you've seen each of these negative behaviors at least once, and we can talk about why they are unhealthy for the game. So the first one to me is gatekeeping. So gatekeeping is a big word. Not everybody knows what gatekeeping means. So Ben, how would you define gatekeeping to a Star Wars Unlimited player?
If you're telling somebody else that they're having fun wrong.
Telling someone else how to play, how to have fun, how to live their life.
Yeah.
Generally not fun.
Like how to spend their money, what characters to play. Like if you're telling somebody else that the thing that they're doing for fun is incorrect, then that falls under the gatekeeping umbrella to me. Yucking other people's yum.
And there's really easy ways to fall into that trap and to like have the same conversation without having it. Like I know I've been in another game, One Piece, right? I played One Piece before, and I would bring some leader to a tournament, and there was a person that would hover behind you before the tournament because it was just a weekly local casual tournament, and they'd be like, "Oh, you're playing Sanji. That character's bad. That doesn't feel good before my tournament. That doesn't make me want to play a game with you." But instead, what they could have said to me was like, "Oh, I've never seen someone play Sanji before. You must have a cool combo. Is that like your favorite character, or why are you playing that character?" And it like you're saying the same thing, but not by slapping me in the face. So I played Sanji because he was my favorite character, and that was fine. So just
But you shouldn't have been.
Yeah, I shouldn't have been. I lost. Make your conversation like inclusive instead of excluding, right? Don't tell people you need to know all the rules to play. Instead, say, "Hey, we're happy to help you learn the rules so that you can get in the tournament." Things like that. Anyway, Ben had something.
It's also okay to lose. Like, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't have played that guy. Because if your goal for that event was to play with cards that you thought were cool, the optimal outcome was you getting to put characters you like on the table in front of you. Now, that's not going to be a satisfying goal for every player. Some players, winning is the satisfying goal. And that's okay too. But, like, in the same way that I shouldn't come up to you and be like, "Oh, you're playing green cards." That's, well, okay. Outside of the sort of, like, friendly trash talking that like people who actually know each other engage in, if you're sincerely telling somebody that they're playing the wrong cards, man, no, you're doing it all wrong. Like Banana said, you were being a dick, and we don't want that.
There's a healthy amount of ribbing that should happen, right? Once you know each other. I get that.
It's healthy.
What about you, Banana? Have you seen gatekeeping before in a card game?
Dude, in every card game, it just happens. Like, I don't know what people, like, some people, like, I don't even how to articulate this without, like, nicely, you know?
I'm trying to not gatekeep the conversation.
I'll give you a couple examples. Like, somebody saying, let's say there was 2 people running similar deck lists, right? And someone's like, "Oh, my version was vastly superior because of this." Like you guys both finished in like the top 8 or top 16. Like you can't, there's no basis to that claim. Or if I've actually seen in an event, somebody, this was in like a top cut at a pretty big event, somebody at a table next to me beat the other person in a best of 3. And then afterwards, that guy and his teammate that lost we're criticizing the winner's deck and commenting to each other about the poor deck choices in the guy's deck that won. So I mean, that's like reverse gatekeeping. It's just weird stuff that is like that's not good for the, like, just don't be a dick, you know? It all comes back around to that number one core
There
rule.
is a context where it is okay. Like, if I say, hey man, attack my deck. Like, make me defend my card choices. If I'm inviting the criticism, like, so there are certainly times where it's appropriate to, like, pick apart somebody else's deck or think, well, I wouldn't have done it that way. But, like, if you can't tell the difference between when that's appropriate and inappropriate, you have a more fundamental problem than, like, a Star Wars Unlimited thing. Like, this is and as somebody who struggles with some of that social interaction stuff, I feel comfortable saying that's a social interaction problem.
Another instance of gatekeeping I've seen is giving players expectations once they're in the community, right? If there's 5 local Digimon events every week and someone could only show up to 1, or someone could only show up every other week, instead of approaching them and saying, hey, you never show up, that's not very helpful. Instead, say something like, oh, I haven't seen you in a while. Life must have been busy. Or how's work going? It seems like we haven't seen you in a bit. Those are ways to, like, invite the person to, like, feel like they're included in the group instead of trying to, like, further exclude them and make them not want to be there. So I think beyond just, like, talking about the game, you can also gatekeep the, like, camaraderie, which kind of falls into my next point, which is clique behavior. This is something that I consider it a little bit different than gatekeeping, but they're kind of the same thing. But to me, clique behavior is when there's, like, different subgroups within the meta, and this always happens, right? These 2 people are best friends, and these 2 people are best friends, and these 2 play each other, and someone says something that they shouldn't have, and all of a sudden little factions create. Nothing offsets, like, a new player, like, walking into a local, like, play casual night and seeing that it's actually 2 separate nights of people that hate each other. So don't engage in, like, the dramatic clique behavior that can happen. Try to put your best foot forward. Try to make everyone feel welcome at your table if you're playing in a public space. If you're playing in your house, trash talk people all you want. In a public space, I think it's important to make people feel like they can be included. So clique behavior, gatekeeping, bad. I won't ask you to tell me about clique behavior because I know you're the clique, but I'm just kidding. Not really. So some other things that I have seen, and this isn't just with Star Wars, this is all my card game history, is rules lawyering mid-game, right? Like, there's a time to call a judge in a tournament when you don't know what a ruling is. That is not the time to fight with the judge if the judge does not rule the way you think that things went. And in casual play, when you're just trying to learn how something goes, take a note that you didn't know how this ruling went and keep moving on with your game. Because if you're going to stop the game for 20 minutes while you Google on your phone, it can really push people out of the game, especially when new players are there or when you're trying to bring someone into the game. Do the best you can with your knowledge of the game as the more experienced player and try to keep the game moving. Because when you stop the game multiple times because you're, like, trying to find some technical corner of the rules case that helps you, it can cause huge slowdowns and huge negative experiences for people. So I think following the rules is very important, but following the rules in a way that makes other people not following the rules, enforcing the rules or questions in the rules in ways that put people off can be super condescending. So you have to find the right way to explain this is the rule and this is why it goes this way without saying, well, in section 4.5 of the RRG, if you read it, you small child, this is what the answer would be. Not that I've ever seen someone do that, but I can envision it in my head. So have you ever been rules lawyered at a tournament or rules lawyered someone? Mr. Ben is laughing, so we'll go to Banana first.
The only time that I personally have rules lawyered people is my kid. That's one that I haven't personally seen too often, so I don't really, like, I get the slowdown and, like, how it can be, like, you could have a holier than thou, like, approach to it. I could see where you know the rules and you don't. It's like you're superior. It's like a glass houses type deal, but that's not one that I've personally witnessed much.
What about you, Mr.
So I when I started playing Magic in the 90s, the like store that I played at was kind of like gross and ruthless, actually, looking back on it. But it was almost like you were a narc if you called a judge. Like, it was like frowned upon that the players couldn't figure it out and they had to call a judge over it. And that, I'm like still mad about it like 30 years later. So every event I run, I always say up front, like, if there's a rules question, you do not have to take your opponent's word for it in this setting, and you should not. So call a judge. And if I'm playing against somebody else, even if I 100% know I'm right, if we're disagreeing about a rule, I encourage my opponent to call a judge. Even if I know it's kind of a waste of everybody's time, it doesn't matter because the standard should be at a tournament, a judge should come over and resolve it. Now, if it's casual night, especially if you're teaching a new player, the standard should be keep the game moving. Again, context kind of matters for everything we're doing here, but like if your guiding principle is being considerate of others and not being a jerk, then I think that will carry us a lot of the way through a lot of these examples. But yeah, absolutely never let somebody like shame you or bully you or make you feel like you're doing something wrong for calling a judge. In a tournament scenario, that's what the judges are there for.
And I think being open to judge calls is super important. So I played a deck that Banana gave me to play at a PQ a couple weeks ago, and it was a Maul leader deck that used outflank?
Fight.
Dogfight to tell units to attack. So I even played the Maul unit that when he attacks gets to attack multiple units. And I would get him overwhelmed by flipping the Maul leader, and I would use Dogfight while he's exhausted to attack multiple units. And I think I played against 4 players, and 3 of them called the judge on me because they were like, you absolutely can't do that. And the judge all 3 times ruled that I could do it because that is the way it works. And 2 of the players were just like, that is the coolest combo ever. I did not do very well, so don't worry. I was a very friendly player. I got my combo off once. At one point I had all 3 Darth Mauls on the board, and I took a picture. I needed to send it to Banana still. It was on the Maul playmat. It was all Maul.
That was the whole goal of the deck.
I told my opponent, I was like, you can kill me now. Yeah. I don't care. Just let this one unit live.
That's excellent.
I had 2 opponents that were just like, that is a really cool combo. And this one opponent that was just like, wow, I think that judge was wrong. That's not the way to handle that. Like, you can mutter that under your breath if you want. It does not help make the game fun for you or for me. If the judge rules against you and you think they're wrong, take a note, look it up in the rules reference later, and then talk with someone about it and figure it out later. But the time to figure that out is not during the middle of your timed match. So please don't do that. Please.
And that does suck. Like, having to eat an incorrect judge call, like, that sucks. But that's what you have to do. That's what an adult does. Sometimes you take your feelings, you put them in a little box, and you go back to the playmat and you act like an adult. Because it does happen. Like, not that often, but, like, you throwing a fit because the judge got something wrong doesn't make you look cool. Like, nah, dude, nah.
When I was learning to play the Decipher Star Wars CCG, there was some old guy. I was like a child, right? So I would always have reactions when I lost, right? Because that's what 7-year-olds or 8-year-olds do. And he told me the same thing you just said. He's like, you know that deck box over there that's empty because your deck's on the table? He's like, that's where you put all your angry feelings when you play your card games. He's like, you just have fun when you're playing the card game. You put your angry feelings in that empty box. And I thought it was the funniest thing someone's ever told me. So it just it sticks with me forever. So my last 3 points I'll go through really fast so we can get to our webcam topic. There's 3 more things that I've seen that can come up in TCGs. So one we kind of talked about earlier is if you're going to have a casual event, don't make it a competitive event. Don't make it a sleuth competitive event, right? Keep casual night casual. Play different formats, play with leaders you don't normally play with, explore the card pool, and have fun with other people that want to do that. So keeping casual nights casual. Another thing is elitism based on card rarity, blinging, and things like that. Nothing is less fun than playing against a person that's like, oh, you have 1 hyperspace and 2 regulars? That helps mark your deck. I can learn information. Yes, you can, but also, like, they might just only have 1 hyperspace card. You don't need to shame them for that. You don't have a fancy showcase leader. You should buy one from this site, or you should go buy more packs and get one. I haven't seen that happen in Star Wars yet, but I have seen it happen in other games where, like, it can be telling in a best of 3 match, right? If I have 1 of regular card art and 3 of the alternate card art in this other card game, then they can figure out more information about my deck. But the amount of information they gain by that is minimal compared to me just playing my deck well and having fun. So don't have any elitism based on card value, alt art, blinginess, or like the value of their deck. Maybe someone's running Darth Mauls in a deck because they don't have Vaders because they joined after Spark came out. You don't have to tell them, well, your deck would have been way better if you just made a better choice. You can say, like, that Darth Maul was really cool. I don't see him played very often. Or whatever. Like, you can find other ways to communicate and figure out why they might not have the coolest deck. Or especially, and this is something I have seen happen in Star Wars, luckily not in my community, but in one I was visiting, where, like, a player showed up that had never played before. Their cards weren't even sleeved. They showed up for a tournament, and they had a starter deck. And someone, like, almost shamed them for playing with a starter deck that was unsleeved. And I was just like, look, man, it's a tournament. Take the free win. Like, you're gonna beat the starter deck probably, and like talk to them about it afterwards. Say, did you just join the game? Don't say, oh, a Luke starter. Wow, that Doesn't help anybody. Sorry. Peeve. And the last one is to not make negative comments about other TCGs, other games, especially if they're being played in the store. If there's people playing Digimon over there, one of those players might play Star Wars next week. So don't go over to them and taunt them for playing with their digital monsters. Instead say, hey, cool to see you, cool to see you here. Maybe we'll see you next week. Because a lot of people have limited time, right? They might have kids, they might have jobs, they might have multiple priorities that you don't have in your life. So don't taunt people for wanting to enjoy their free time how they enjoy it. Instead, try to be happy for that person that's doing something that they enjoy. And those are my negative Nancy things of not to do to grow a local community. Don't do those things when I'm visiting your community. I travel a lot for work, and if I see them, they'll end up in a show like this next year. Just like that Luke deck player. I know you're watching.
I imagine Dan like going around to stores and like choking people. Like, what did you say?
Also,
choking. I give them a card when I do that.
Another thing that's probably not good to help grow your community. Don't threaten violence on a store at an event. That's probably not a great way to build relationships in a community.
Those are fun situations. When the police have to come to your TCG tournament, you know it's a good time. I hope that's a sound clip that haunts me later. All right, let's move on to our second topic. We're all using webcams to talk to each other. Another great way to play, and someone left us a YouTube comment to ask us to talk about this, is some people don't have a local community, right? I live in a metro city where luckily we have 6 or 7 different game stores that play Star Wars Unlimited, but not everybody has that. Some people live in rural
Iowa.
Name a state. Iowa. Yeah, or Wisconsin or whatever.
A few people live in Iowa, yes.
Yes. I mean, our state is less populous than yours, I'm pretty sure, so I won't say anything. But some people don't have a local community, right? So their local community is Discord, right? We have a Discord for Saga. Sometimes I play webcam games with people on there. And someone asked, have you ever played in a webcam league? Have you ever played online against other players using your physical cards? Because we all love our cardboard crack. So I will let Mr. Ben talk about how he has experienced online play for SWU and other games that you play.
So I'm always reluctant to engage sort of honestly with this topic because you always sound a little insane when you say, let me tell you about the bright side of COVID. But let me tell you about the bright side of COVID. So in a world before COVID, I tried to run digital card game tournaments for the game of Versus, and Upper Deck very much didn't want us to use like Tabletop Simulator or any of the like digital tabletop virtual spaces that are out there. So we were doing this through, at the time, Skype, because this predated Discord's popularity even, and it was really hard to get people to play. Like, people just were not interested. It was awkward. Like, oh, I don't know how to do a webcam. Well, when COVID happened, that all changed. Like, everybody, all of a sudden, we had to figure out webcams. And if someone is, like, reluctant to get into the webcam space, let me first, like, validate your feelings. It is kind of weird and vulnerable to have like a camera turned on pointed into your home. And if you're new to the game, you have all of the typical, oh, I don't want to make a mistake, I don't want to look stupid, like all of the typical new player jitters on top of trying to figure out the webcam thing. So my advice in this is, first of all, just do it. Just jump in, give yourself permission to make some mistakes, and anytime in life you run into a situation where something is difficult or awkward or you're new and you don't know what you're doing, the worst thing to do is pretend that that's not the case. Just be honest. Just tell your opponent, hey, I'm new. This is the first time I'm setting up my webcam. I'm not totally sure how this all works. Please be patient with me. And in my experience, kind of on both sides of this, the people who are playing on webcam are very happy to have you there and want to make it a good experience. So, if you're not trying to act like you already know everything and you're honest about your degree of ignorance, I think people are going to be patient with you and help you the vast majority of the time. Just like in real life, there's going to be some bad apples every once in a while, but like you should never let like the 1% of people that really suck dissuade you from doing any particular hobby, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Banana?
So for me, actually learning Versus was mainly through Build Phase League. Like actually playing with other people was through your webcam league, because that's when I was introduced to it, like through Marvel Champions and you guys, and no local store here even sold it. Like a bunch of my stuff I found on clearance, So yeah, I think webcam leagues are great. We hosted like 2 seasons of a webcam league through the first 2 sets. We haven't done one since. It's just haven't had the time or the bandwidth to coordinate that. But like the main deck community server hosts webcam leagues. The Johto cast server hosts webcam leagues. If you jump in the Saga Discord and there's like a looking for group channel, you can ask to get webcam games there, and the main community Discord server as well. You can try to find webcam games. But if you're looking for a webcam league to jump in and play with other players, I would definitely plug the Johto cast server and the main deck league server, or the main deck community server, and their league. And they have like there's league managers there. There's a lot of good folks in there, and you can get games and have a good time. And then whenever we fire one up again, you're always welcome to join ours. But webcam games, you don't have to worry about a fancy setup either. Like, your cell phone is a good enough camera 99% of the time. You just got to get it up there. Even like, I think I saw a picture from like one of the early build phase leagues, like how to play on webcam video. Like, you were using like cardboard boxes or like textbooks or something to stack it up. Like,
comic book short box, 2 books and a plank of wood.
There you go. See, you can MacGyver it and make it work. So don't feel intimidated. Plenty of people will help you get it set up, and then it's just playing cards.
Yeah, and I've played the same 2 leagues. I played in the Johto League. I love the main deck league. It's super fun. Some of the people I love playing online with, I met through the main deck league. I missed the cutoff on the last one. So that's the one thing about some of these leagues, is they'll have like a cutoff date, or you can join late, but like if you're joining in week 5 of 6 of the league, you can kind of get behind, right? But those looking for group channels are great. Every time a new set comes out, I always hop into looking for group channels, and I usually find like games within minutes by just posting, hey, I'm looking for a webcam game. Not everybody's cameras are the same quality. I have pretty poor quality cameras, so I always have to communicate extra to be like, can you even see what's going on my board? Because I can barely see it through my computer screen. So it's even more important to communicate what you're doing there. But you can make your own little testing community through Discord, and it's a lot harder. It's a lot more work. But if you meet friends through Discord by playing on webcam, then start a group chat with those people and form your own little teams to say like, hey, we should get together on Saturday nights and play SWU. I know, on pivoting again, on the Marvel Champions Discord server, they just started doing that, where they'll have like a night where it's like, hey, everybody hop into this channel, we'll divide into tables and we'll play a webcam game. It's really taken off and flourished, and it's a really cool initiative to just like help with community building in your external community, like the global community of SWU. So I think webcam games and leagues are awesome. I agree with what Mr. Ben said earlier. They're not nearly the same as playing against the person on the opposite side of the table. You don't get the same like interactions and bluffs and all sorts of things that you would get in a regular game. But I think that they're still super valuable. They're still good for repetitions of figuring out how to do things in your deck and practicing those good social etiquette things of explaining my turn. And I've had a blast with them. I've played them in multiple different games. And I was going to say the same thing Ben said about COVID, but he already said it, so I won't repeat it. But like, this is how cool this is, right? Is I played in one of those early build phase leagues, and I remember it was always really hard to just like schedule with your opponent to find a game. But like playing some of the Bandai games right now, like One Piece had a lot of online regionals. And yes, there were a lot of scandals of people removing their cards from the screen and ending up with too many cards in their deck and all sorts of things. But beyond that, a lot of people that can't travel to a galactic qualifier or a planetary qualifier or a regional. For One Piece, you can play in a regional online. Like, the day and age of people not being able to play in person seems like it's mostly over, right? A lot of people are returning to game stores now, but they're keeping those online regionals going because they sell out. They let people like me with kids at home, where it's really hard to travel for a weekend to go play a fun little card game, still get to play their events. And like, I still play in the One Piece ones, even though I'm not buying it anymore. I play like a retro deck that's like super under power crept, but you get your participation prizes, and people love to see the old cards that they don't have access to anymore. And in the background of my webcam, there's always like a child like jumping on a bed, and they think it's hilarious because I do like a dual webcam thing, so they can see my face and they can see my board, and they always see my kids like jumping in the background or running up to me and like being like, will you pour this juice? And they're like pouring it on the floor, so it actually becomes a very fun social interaction for them. But I'm a big fan of webcam play. I love doing webcam play. If you're on the Saga Discord server, please at me when you want to play a webcam game. If it's when I'm available, I will probably play one with you. So that's my main thought on webcam play.
So let's add some like tangible tips.
Yeah.
So like, if you're looking to get into it, I wrote an article about this back in like, I think 2021, for an online regional, and there were some like really basic things that I think you should think about like before you do it. For one, the time to figure out your setup is not when you're scheduled to play your opponent. Like, expecting somebody else to sit there while you learn how your webcam needs updated firmware. No. So set up ahead of time. Another thing to think about, and one of the most important things, is glare. Are your card sleeves creating glare with your light source? Where is your light source coming from? Are you testing your setup at 10 a.m. with natural light that's not going to be there at 7 p.m. when you play with your opponent? So think about what you're using as a light source, control for glare, and figure all this stuff out before you're expecting somebody else to be waiting on you. And that, honestly, that solves most of it. And this really kind of comes back to what Banana said. Like, just don't be a dick. Be considerate of other people when you're engaging in this space, and other people will be considerate of you. And really, that's like all we want, you know? That's all you can expect from others.
Basically, if you feel like Emperor Palpatine would be proud of you, you're probably doing something wrong. Don't continue down that route. Like, change something about your traits or whatever, and don't do that. Some other webcam tips, you talked about the cell phone one. You can even just get one of those like college webcams they used to have that just like USB plug into your computer and tilt it down from your computer screen. That totally works fine. Some things that are really important for webcam play are keeping your hand visible to your opponent. So if you want to look at your resources, you can get something like a poker chip. You can set your hand down on the table, put the poker chip on top of it, pick up your resources and see if you have something to smuggle, put your hand back down. So there's lots of things that like you might not think of in real play, but that's actually good for you in real play to not accidentally mix up your hand and your resources. So it's a good habit to get into. Keeping your cards visible in general is something that the people like for you to do. That way you're not having a second deck set off to the side where you're pulling in the perfect solutions. That becomes very obvious when you're the person doing that. I've seen people say you should always draw your cards onto the table. Like if you're going to draw 2 cards, you should pull a card off and pull a second card and be like, I'm drawing these 2 cards, and then add them to your hand, just so that like the other player is like, oh, they're not actually drawing 3 cards and telling me it's 2. You could still be sneaky, but again, you'd be the Palpatine apprentice there. Don't do that. But yeah, those are like my main tips with playing webcam play. And communicate, talk. Don't sit silently and then say, I killed that unit. Say, I'm attacking with Luke, Indivator, I'm doing 6 damage, I'm taking back my 5, I'm going to restore 3. Your action. And that can be very important, just saying your action, pass, things like that.
Yeah.
I think that was all I had on webcam play. I think it's a great opportunity, so again, if you are worried about doing it, even if you have to set up your camera with me, if it's in the Looking for Group channel, I can help you do that, because sometimes it's hard to figure out how to set up your camera on your own when you don't get to see what's displaying. But if you want to join a league, definitely recommend it. The Main Deck League, the Joe League, they're top-notch. They're super fun to play in, and every single person I've played in them, whether I got stomped or whether I stomped them, has been a blast to play with.
The only downside of the Main Deck League for me is I'm not eligible to get any prizing in that league, but that's a personal issue. Because I'm like a community leader, like a mod in there.
How dare
So
you?
you've been DQ.
How dare you?
Yeah.
Well, that was our community building episode for 2025. We'll probably do another one in 2026 when we learn more things and we have them to share with you. But for now, that was it from the Saga podcast. So we will see you in the arenas.
Don't be a dick.